Hi, welcome. Good evening to another episode of Heavy Metallurgy's Album Club. It's Wednesday. Good to see you, and it's good to see these fine gentlemen here. We've got Jim down below from Eihwaz Recordings. What's going on, Jim?
Oh, not much new in my stretch of the woods. I'm happy to be here and not thinking about or being at work. So yeah, I'm good.
Excellent, excellent. Kellen from Killing for Company just launched a new video this evening. What's going on with that, and what's going on with you?
Nothing much. So earlier this evening, I put a new video out on a band called Enchanter that later turned into Longings Past from Jackson, Michigan. So shout out to all you Michigan people.
Yep.
But basically the series catalogs traditional heavy metal from America that came around sort of the end of the 80s and went through the 90s. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, check it out.
Awesome. And TJ, how you doing?
I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but just to reiterate, never trust a fart. Words to live by.
Yep. Something happened this weekend you want to talk about, or
I'm not willing to discuss it, but let's just say that I'm bloated. It's awful. I don't know what's going on.
One thing turned into another.
something is dead in there, and it's not great.
I think the raccoons relocated from your crawl space to your basement. By the sound,
I think somebody put them in a tortilla and fed them to me. Is what happened. I don't know. So it's bad. It's all bad.
Well, it's good to see everyone in the chat tonight. Good to see my brothers here sitting here with me. And for those that turned out last night for our little impromptu VCLT thing, thanks for joining us and sticking with us again for this evening. Before we get into tonight's discussion, let's talk about what we've been spinning. We'll start with you, Kellen.
Sure. So just because of the kind of research and time I was spending preparing for the video that I put into today, I spent some time going over American power metal, and this is a classic. Crimson Glory,
great record.
Transcendence, yeah. Anyway, the band that Enchanter turned into, Longings Past, is way more proggy, and Crimson Glory is definitely. This is an amazing record, and in an upcoming video, she'll be making a return, but. Yeah, Lady of Winter, In Dark Places. I really wanted like a silver mask to pull out and turn around and make an appearance for this one, but I just don't have a silver mask hanging around, so I have to put up with my ugly mug for a second. But
there's something called Amazon Prime. I mean, what's your dedication line to the show, Kellen?
Hit the
I don't think they do
store,
it within 30 minutes, but yes.
What would Alan do? You need to ask yourself that. What WWAD?
Yeah, what would Alan do? Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, even Eternal World, there's so many awesome songs on this record, and obviously Midnight's an amazing vocalist. So killer record, check it out.
Right on. Jim.
Still in my metal church kick. So there's another classic here, The Dark. Reverend delivers again vocally. This album definitely has much more of a commercial feel compared to the debut. Out of what I consider the first four essential, this and Human Factor are kind of tied for me. I really like the debut and Blessing the Skies the most, but some absolutely standout tracks here. The Dark, the title track. Watch the Children Play. The start off track, Ton of Bricks. Those are all great songs. So it, despite its, decidedly, Electra style production, which I think cleaned them up too much. This record I still consider to be essential. It's just great, pure heavy metal, and I love it.
Awesome, TJ.
So Marty, if you'd post that one, that picture, the Danish band called, I don't know, Beast, I don't know. Choose your pronunciation. nailed it. Necrosapiens came out in 21, I think. Just a really well executed death metal, creative, inventive, solid front to back. It's a really killer release. And thank you for posting that for me, Marty. And then
Yep.
and then I also we've been talking about this, and I've had this for a while. It's Sumerlands, their first record. Just it's it's like Jakey Lee worship on the guitars. Metal. It's a great record. It's like, yes, they conjure Ozzy and stuff in places, but it's so well put together. It's just kind of it's great. So
All right. Well, for me, one album I forgot to show last night because it was on my turntable and had another record fall in front of it. Mike Seatown sent this to me, and this is Dawn of Orion, a celestial ballad. This was his band. The dates, early 2000s, I would guess. I guess the easy way to... People are going to want to say metalcore, but I'm not hearing a lot of core. The riffs on here are a little bit thrashy at times, a little deathy at times. There's some great Swedish type melodies going on this stuff. It's just really well played, hard hitting metal. And Mike's vocals are just scathing on this. He sounds totally feral. He might be, kind of in the screamo area of singing style. That might be the core element, but this is the Collective Archives 2LP set put out by Immigrant Son. Really nice colored vinyl. Comes with a big book, a bunch of pictures of the band and lyrics for everything. This includes their entire discography. So there's a demo, a 7-inch, their full length, and then 3 songs, I believe, that were never released. So this is a complete Collective Archive. The production's really good. These guys were really, really, really good. And for their time in Atlanta, I mean, this is an Atlanta band, Jim. So, I'm sure you can sympathize with probably the problems they had getting anywhere late 90s, early 2000s in Atlanta.
Yeah. No support for heavy metal in the 90s in Atlanta. None.
No. But they did a lot of shows and stuff with hardcore bands and stuff. And I don't know if the hardcore bands got them. They were too heavy for hardcore. This band was really good. So go check out Immigrant Son is the record label and get yourself a copy. I think they've been going fast. This is really well done. And it's funny, TJ mentioned Jakey Lee because I pulled this one out of nowhere the other night and sat and listened to it. Man, I remember really, really being into this album, and it's been decades since I've spun this. So one thing to take away from it, the production's weird.
Agreed.
Ozzy sounds wasted on this.
He is.
I'm sure. Yeah, he mumbles. He's kind of mumbling his way through, and
it's actually my favorite Ozzy.
Yeah. But this is Bark at the Moon. You're No Different. There isn't really a bad song on here. You got like
rock and roll rebel.
Yep.
Killed, man. They say I worship the devil.
Yeah, then of course it ends on Waiting for Darkness, which is a very cool, moody track. Slow Down's kind of a commercial type. There's a couple commercial stabs in there.
Yeah, that's every Ozzy record, though.
Right.
Bark at the Moon is one of my. I've never been a huge solo Ozzy fan. I've always liked bits and pieces. Bark at the Moon has always been like, I love that song, and that's why I like the Sumerland so much, because it just kind of smacks of that all the way through. It's really cool. But yeah, there's some great shit on there.
Dude, the lead that Jakey Lee plays at the end of that song, it's godly, man. I mean, it is great. Absolutely stellar. It's one of my all-time favorite guitar solos. I love
sure.
it, man. Yeah.
And Tim, Mike's going to be back. We've been busy. He's busy guy, super busy guy. He'll be back. I want to get him on, talk about this record and the band, and get him on for a top. Mike rules. Love Mike. Anyway, we're here to talk about, Kellen, if you want to show it, if you have it around.
Came prepared for class. Okay.
Released February 22nd, 2013 on Growl Records. This is Formless, the 5th album, full-length album by Ireland's Mourning Beloveth. Mourning Beloveth is an Irish death doom band. The band existed since 1992 and mostly plays very slow, long songs with melodic lead guitars. The singing is a mixture of harmonious, clear male vocals and deep growling. The band in their career have released 2 demos, 6 full-length albums, and 4 splits. And we're going to talk about Formless today. Let's start off with Jim. First impressions.
I was ready for some doom. Been listening to a lot of evoking lately. Wink, wink. I'm sure Kellen knows why. I enjoyed it, but there was definitely some concerns about some I think there's a little bit of wasted opportunity here and there in a couple of tracks, but overall though I really like the clean vocals on this. I thought they delivered pretty well. I like the riffs, and I think the album got stronger and stronger as it went on. I think overall, I enjoyed, giving it repeat listens. I enjoyed giving it a deeper dive, and there was definitely that it kind of opened up for me as I continued to listen to it. Though conversely, the things I didn't like about it kind of remained throughout. You know what I mean? So I definitely have had some mixed feelings about the record, but overall, an enjoyable first pass, and I felt like there was more to unpack, with subsequent listens. So
Awesome. And Mike, welcome to the channel. Thanks for jumping in the chat and joining us. Appreciate it. Good to see you on there. And Kellen picked it. TJ.
Yeah, so my first impression of this initially is it's a kind of a boring and static plod that borders on funeral doom. I was not really hopeful that I was going to draw a whole lot of anything really cool out of this. It did improve as I moved into the record, but there's definitely spots in here that I did a lot of vigorous writing on this one. That's
Writing your memoirs.
Yeah, for sure. I was not. I enjoy this style of music. There's a lot of bands in this genre that this style that I really like a lot, and these guys just kind of they conjure it at moments, but they just there's so much wasted opportunity in a lot of what they're trying to accomplish, and we'll get deep. We'll dive into it a little deeper here, but yeah, my first impression of this wasn't great. So,
do you have any facts on Ireland history, culture for us to integrate for this?
No, because I was busy actually giving a shit about this one.
Paying attention to the assigned tasks, eh?
Yeah. You understood the assignment for once.
We do expect facts from now on, TJ. You put yourself in the box.
Well, we'll see what happens. We'll keep them guessing.
All right, I'll let you go last, Kellen. For me, the message I sent to Jim earlier today, a few moments of class and skill surrounded by boring minimalism. My first impression of this was on a car ride, and it seems like all of the elements are here. It's set up for success. It's got good production. It's got varying vocal styles. The death vocals got a good gurgle to them. The clean vocals remind me of Alan Averill from Primordial a little bit. Obviously, the accents are very similar. And it seems like the lyrical content is in the Primordial realm as well. But the music takes a long time to get anywhere. And sometimes it doesn't go anywhere. And that's the bummer, because the production's there, the guitar tone's there. It's an album full of squandered opportunity. when they do, there are moments on this record where they hit some really good things. It's like, wow, more of this, please. But it just takes so long to get there. I mean, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 songs on this that are over the 14-minute mark. I mean, there's a lot of room to do stuff in these songs. There really is. There's a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of room for reoccurring ideas. There's a lot of room for layering. The layering doesn't happen much, and the growth doesn't happen much, which is a little surprising. Like I said, it felt like it set up for much more than it was. Kellen, your thoughts?
So interesting note. I'm guessing everyone here doesn't own the album, listen to it digitally.
Never even heard of them.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I've got like a promo of the one where the brain, or the one guy, I think it's the second or third album where they're catching the brain, and I don't remember it.
So the record actually just unfolds for the first 5 tracks, and the second part of it came to me on a CD. So I don't know when they decided to add transmissions onto it, but it was basically a record, and they just put a CD along it. I don't know if it was intended initially to be meant initially in the listening process. So I actually felt when I was trying to stream it, we can get to the track listing later, but it changed my perception of the listen.
It's actually on Metal Archives. It says disc 1, and then disc 2 has just transmissions on it. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
It's okay. Like the for me, and I mentioned this last week, is I've been a little bit hesitant getting into death doom as a genre, and I've tended to lean closer to the death side of that equation. So I first discovered this band. I had never heard of them. In 2020, they did a split with the Ruins of Everest, and I actually could get behind like the singing, the clean part of it, and the death metal, the heavy stuff, I thought actually bared a greater resemblance to a band that was mentioned earlier, Evoken, which to me always straddled like a death doom on the death metal side of that and funeral doom incredibly well. They sound different than like the Peaceful 3, Catatonia, especially from this era. So I was initially interested on a death doom band that had these long extended passes. I don't have a problem with long listens like this. I'm guessing by the attitude within the chat here, I might have more of an appetite for this stuff, especially on the funeral doom side of things. Like Mournful Congregation is another band that I really like. So I don't mind the 20-minute song things, but this is also a little bit new for me. So I was interested to float this album because I enjoyed it. But knowing the panel here, I was curious to have some feedback based on all of your experience in longevity with the genre, to kind of get your thoughts and insight into what you heard, something that I can potentially sort of glean from in the future. So while I liked it, I was very excited to kind of bring this to the panel and see what you guys thought.
If I could jump in real quick, I have a real hard time putting this in the funeral doom box, because I think stylistically, sonically, it wants to be in the My Dying Bride, in the Peaceville 3 box is where it wants to be. I think the minimalism of this album in particular is hinting at funeral doom. I just don't know if it's intentional or if it's just where they're at as musicians.
That's just my take. I was like, would I say this is a funeral doom? No, but it just borders on that in spots. There's huge chunks of this where it's, it's just, it's like a Count Raven song. It's like a 2-minute long power chord, or Sunno or something, it's just like, wow, dude, and so it's like, is it, I definitely 100% agree. It's like My Dying Bride and early, Anathema Serenades or, whatever. That is definitely more what they're trying to conjure here for sure. But
where My Dying Bride could get away with some of this stuff is, they would fill in those empty spaces with a sad violin or melody or a keyboard thing. These guys don't have that element. So when it's just like a 3-chord progression over and over and over for 7 minutes where there's no variation, and the vocalist is, when I'm listening to this, I mean, me and TJ were talking about this earlier. I thought that the guitar player was the singer because the vocals are lockstep with the riffs. There's so much room for this guy to open up these songs. He doesn't. He focuses on simplistic progressions, and it really drills the boredom aspect of the flow home. And my brain wants it to go, like I said, it's all stacked up. There's shit here that's really set up to be good. It's just they didn't go that extra step to open it up, make it more spatial. It's just very tunnel vision. Well, we'll
Static
get into,
and plotting.
Yeah, static and plotting. Yes. Anybody anything else to add on this before we jump into the next? Nope. Jim? Nope.
No, I'm ready for the questions.
All right. Kellen, you want to read it? It's yours. You want to jump in?
Sure. Many early fans of the Peaceville 3 were turned off by the latter, more gothic, progressive direction of the genre. While Mourning Beloveth emerged almost a decade after My Dying Bride, Anathema, and Paradise Lost, by the turn of the millennia, were there any advantages to being a heavy death doom band from Ireland? Had they lost their moment for greater consideration and praise within the genre?
Who wants to go first? Jim, you've been voted.
Oh, well, I mean, this question's tough for me because I'm not familiar with a lot from the Irish scene. I guess, Marty, you mentioned Primordial. They're Ireland, or
they're Irish. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, I like Primordial, so hey, there we go. Not enough to know where they came from, obviously. I only own like 2 of their CDs or whatever, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if I think from my perspective that really has any sort of an impact. I think in terms of like locale, and I think at this point, in the 2000s, as metal began to grow exponentially with the advent of high-speed internet, more so than just the internet itself, I think that those barriers were really starting to come down really quickly, in terms of that being a factor in a band's visibility. Conversely, I think it becomes a lot harder to stand out, with the ubiquitous of high-speed internet and exposure for every single band, whether they were worthy or not of attention. So it may be that, like, if these guys had come out, in the 90s, that and signed to a label of some level of prominence, Van Records definitely these days is in the underground, that they would have gotten attention, anyway. But yeah, I mean, maybe one of the challenges for these guys was, like, I think, less so probably that than it was a lot of competition, for attention as, metal really got its tendrils in a lot more of, the listening public at large, due to its accessibility, over the, electrons, as you will. But yeah, so, you guys may have a better perspective on that, me being less familiar with, like, that side of the, of Great Britain, but or Northern Ireland. Wait, which one is Ireland separate? Northern Ireland is part of Great Britain. That's right, right? I always get that wrong. Somebody in the UK is going to get really mad at me right now because that really. But yeah. Anyway, so that's my take on that question. Probably wasn't a great answer, but I'm doing good.
I do believe that Ireland is part of Great Britain, of the United Kingdom. Am I wrong or am I right?
I'm not sure. I think they're part of the United Kingdom, but they have their own. It's like Scotland, that they're separate or whatever. But
they're governed by it, but not necessarily.
Yeah. It's like Australia and Canada, have, the monarchs on
Someone
the
in the
money or
chat's going to
whatever.
clear this up for us. I can
Yep.
see
Yeah.
it.
Like I said, I didn't come prepared with facts, so you're on your own tonight.
I blame
I mean,
you, TJ. I blame you, man.
Yeah. Your facts always clear things up so nicely too. It's
I
like,
know. I know.
what about you, TJ? What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, again, I'm not really sure. I mean, Death Doom from Ireland. I mean, I don't know if being from Ireland, I mean, they're in the same geographical area as the rest of these bands for the most part anyway.
They're close enough proximity to be lumped in as much as they may not want to hear that.
Yeah, well, and they're obviously trying to conjure, they're trying to bring that with what they're, with their product, with what they're writing. I mean, it's, the influences are obvious. I don't think they're treading any new ground by any stretch, at least not us on this release,
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Did they miss their chance? Well, I mean, I think if they were putting out, I mean, this record compared to other stuff, it's like this just kind of pales, there's so many other things that are so much better. I hate to kind of go there with this, but it's just, so it's like, I don't know, there's talent here, there's potential here, there's quality here, but this record just kind of just doesn't do it. And as for the band, it's like, I think with the other bands, it's like, I think, there's, I think maybe they're riding coattails a little bit here. And did they miss their chance? It's like, I don't know, they could be contenders like anybody else, I think, if they were really, doing more with this stuff. But again, it's also subjective, because I mean, I'm sure they have they've been around all these years, what, 96 or 92 or whatever.
92.
Yeah.
Wait.
And
Wait.
I saw one thing that said 96. So I don't know. Long, 28
says that
years.
on Wikipedia says the band has existed since 1992.
Right. Okay.
So I mean, they're right in the time, right in that time zone,
Right. And so it's just, did they miss the mark? Maybe, maybe they started, they fell in behind everybody, and they're playing catch up all this time. And again, I just, they're trying, and I'm not super. I mean, Primordial, I think I have one of their records.
You probably have Spirit the Earth Aflame. I seem like I gave that to you a long time ago.
Right. That's what I remember, is you giving me a copy of that. So I think I have that, but beyond that,
and they're good. They're a good band. They're unique.
Yeah,
cool,
for sure. And I see some stuff in the comments. The Altar of Plagues. It seems like I've seen that name around before too. Ireland is sovereign and part of the. Okay, right on. Alan for the save there. But so yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I guess for my money on the question, I don't have a real solid answer for this. It's a good question, but for me, it's like, compared to their peers in the style, I think there's far greater output from other bands that kind of outshine this, and I applaud their longevity, and I'd be curious to see if anything they've done is any different from this. But I don't know, I fear that it probably isn't. But some people really like stuff like, the way this is just kind of minimalist and stripped down and just powerful, because it is that, if anything. But so I don't know. I'm rambling. I don't know. I don't have a real good answer for you on this one. They probably could have done more earlier on than they did, but maybe they did miss their chance.
Well, from my side here with the question, it's a good question, and I'm looking at Metal Archives, which isn't the be all end all resource, but it's something we as metalheads use quite often. It's an awesome resource. I'm looking at their discography and the reviews, and Formless is the second highest ranked reviewed album at 93%. The only album higher in their collection is Dust, their debut, at 95%. So if people are considering Formless to be the second best, I'm just looking at one place for data. And I don't know. And the fact that what they're trying to do is leaning into the Peaceful 3 realm. It just is. Sonically, what they're doing, the mixed up the alternating vocal style. I just think that bands like Anathema, Paradise Lost, and My Dying Bride early on, they cast a pretty ominous shadow because they're playing slow, they're writing really good riffs, they're adding another dimension, whether it's Gothic influences, whether it's acoustic instruments like violins, or just doing weird things. They all three of those bands were in the same realm, but they sounded different from each other. Here comes Mourning Beloveth. It sounds to me like My Dying Bride's little brother, and they're not laying down enough variation in their music to compete with the Peaceful 3. Not that they want to. I'm just saying. And you listen to bands like Evoken. I think Evoken and Mournful Congregation, both of those bands are exceptional at writing. And Ahab is another one. Dense, heavy, death doom that has flow. It has motion. The riffs go somewhere. There's harmony. There's melody. There's atmosphere. There's all this stuff going on. And maybe the one thing that's holding, and having heard one album from this band, it's not a fair assessment. I'm going to say that right now. But if people are saying that this is their second highest reviewed album, man, they're missing. There's a lot of elements they're not messing with here. And yeah, I'm
glad that you mentioned, Ahab. That's a really good example, because like you listen, like, any of it from, Call the Wretched Sea, Bolts of the Glencarrig, which is my personal favorite. And then the new one, the name escapes me. That's where my mat came from, is the box set rule. But there is so much you can compare between. I don't know how familiar you are with Ahab, Kellen. But he's gonna go grab the whole.
He's gonna go his box set. I'd make sure they had that came with a deep sea helmet.
Yeah. Where do I get that? Where's that one?
I may not have my silver Crimson Glory mask, but I have a deep sea helmet here. No,
yeah. Right on. So and it's the comparisons I think are that's a really astute comparison to make with this band. But when you listen, like Marty said, when they formulate a song, it's like they can say in 7 minutes what these guys are trying to say in 14 and
17 sometimes.
Yeah, and move that song along with character and with color, and still stay in that plotting place, but still adding so much to it. And it's so much for sure. I'm just you mentioned that, and it's like, yeah, dude, so
Kellen,
bonus points.
Your turn to retort and your thoughts on your own question.
Yeah, I mean, when I was formulating the question, I was just thinking about the importance, like, of not just the geography, but also sort of capitalizing on a moment in time, and how all of those bands kind of could feed off of each other, not just promotionally for marketing reasons, but I would imagine, like, through their proximity to one another, it would just be an environment that would breed like creativity for that specific genre at that time. It was fresh and new. They were all trying new things. And
yep.
I guess for me, I always viewed, though, like, I don't like Ahab after their second release. So I actually fell off the giant when that record came out. I started to lose interest. I liked and it might be a style of contrasting, because I know, for example, that TJ is a fan of the catalog with My Dying Bride, where I struggle with parts of that.
And me too, to be honest.
So just as an example, like, I to get back to the question, I kind of listen to Mourning Beloveth, and for some reason, because they don't like stray in a way that potentially alienates me, I have maybe more patience for them. I can understand, the desire for greater instrumentation or diversity, but the reason I sort of gravitated towards this band initially is I thought, much like Evoken, especially their earlier work, where it just is a bit more on the death metal side of things. I almost looked at their sound as reactionary. And I thought for so many potential fans who loved early Peaceville, when they started drifting into their, lurking and wilting in the shadow goth stuff, this would have been like a welcome change of pace. All of them come around. The first Ahab records in 2006, I think first Evokens in 1999. So to me, I always heard them as somewhat like pushing back. Mourning Beloveth even toured with Hooded Menace. So just by contrast, I thought that would be part of the appeal initially, is that they were a bit more of a heavy death doom kind of sound, as opposed to what was happening often with those pioneering bands. So that's kind of how I've interpreted them, and how I kind of I was thinking about them when I posed the question.
Right. Okay, let's get into the musicality and composition of Formless. Jim, you want to fire that off?
Yeah, I will. There is, some interesting choices on this record that, despite, its flaws, I think that, they did take some risks. When I think about the second track, Ethics, on the Precipice, there's almost like a bluesy acoustic interlude in the middle of that song. Just the way the chord progressions kind of go into it a little, and that's not something in Funeral Doom you hear a lot of. There's a little bit of a rock vibe in some of that Hooded Menace stuff, but I consider them a little too upbeat for Funeral Doom in most cases. And then, as you get near the 14-minute mark of that same song, obviously I'm looking at my notes here if I'm getting that intact, but there's a riff and a vocal delivery that immediately made me think of not so much death metal, but like the riffing and the vocal delivery reminded me of like Neurosis or Isis. There was a little bit more of a scream kind of going on. There was a little bit more open chords going on that were kind of like not dissonant, but just like open and loud and just kind of more of a slow, kind of a crushing kind of a vibe. So that was unexpected. And I didn't really pick up on it until like actually several listens repeats through the record, but it is definitely there. And another thing, like on Old Rope, the next song, that main riff is kind of reminds me of those slow Jerry Cantrell, Alice in Chains, I love Alice in Chains. I don't care. I don't, whatever.
Good band.
Yeah, it's a great band. Yeah. I know we're talking extreme metal here, but Alice in Chains rules. And
Dirt's a classic.
Band,
absolute classic.
It is.
It's a perfect record, really. Anyway.
But he does a lot of, slow down picking where he's like, dun, dun, dun. I mean, if you listen to Alice in Chains, you know that a lot. And an Old Rope is kind of like that. Old Rope is, if you take, an old Jerry Cantrell riff and you slow it down, you're kind of hearing that a little bit. So, there's some interesting, choices in terms of the musicality and composition that I wouldn't usually hear. I definitely wouldn't usually hear in a band like this. And I think that's kind of what helped, balance, some of the longevity here. And in fact, the better songs on the record is track 5. And in that song, there is some really, really fantastic, like post-metal style riffing that kind of comes in around about 9.5 minutes in. And there is harmonized vocals over it, harmonized clean vocals, and then it, and before that, before it gets to that point, it has like a nice double bass run. So there are like some really cool ideas here. Not everything these guys do is like plodding and dreary. The only thing that I think detracts from some of those great ideas is the overall, in my opinion, the overall length of the record. I don't want any record to be an hour and 21 minutes long. I don't want any record to be that long.
It's fucking brutal.
Yeah, I don't, but because I think that you can, even the best Doom records, I think get it done in under an hour. You know what I mean? And I think that these guys could have really benefited from some editing. Like Kellen, I'm okay with a 15-minute long Doom song. That is not unusual. I've got that Mournful Congregation record that has 2 tracks on it. I think both are like 22 minutes long. But there again, you're under an hour. You know what I mean? You're still at 45, 50 minutes. And so I do think, where these guys, could have benefited compositionally was from a little bit more reflection on, do we really need that extra 2 or 3 minutes here? And, cutting 2 or 3 minutes out of every song and really getting rid of the last song entirely. I think Transmissions was...
Oh, it goes nowhere. God.
That one I take issue with because to your point, Marty, yes, it goes nowhere. I kept waiting. I'm like, so much build up, so much anticipation. This is going to crush, this is going to like really set this record off. And then I kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And then it just ends. It's basically this like, acoustic rock slow song.
It's like minor variations on one main riff run that it's like, it doesn't develop anywhere. It doesn't.
Yeah. So that one, where I was excited about all these new, what I felt were, kind of new and original ideas in the Doom and at least the Death Doom genre that they had, attacked earlier on in the record. I felt like they kind of crushed that vibe with the overall length of the record a little bit, not crushed it, but sort of like moved the needle back in the middle for me. You know what I mean? Where I was like, oh, this is really cool. But I was like, oh, it's kind of a little too long. Kind of like, what is this last song? What is it doing? And then it kind of like got in this point where I had mixed feelings about the record. So I don't know where these guys are at now. I know they had a record after this, and I only heard like one song off of that one. But, my hope is if they're still wanting to produce that they'll just like, hey man, just do a little bit of editing, because I do feel that the ideas are there, but it's a little long in tooth for execution.
TJ.
Well, some of Jim's points are already in my notes. Song 5, I think it's the strongest track on the record, and the dual harmonies and stuff. You could take like track 1, you could cut that song because you get like from minute 6 to minute 9, you're like 3.5 minutes where he's playing 3 power chords, and he's using that to drag the front of the song to the back of the song. And then they get into this, the last 3-4 minutes of the song are really cool, really sorrowful and bitter. Just really, really nice. And they could have thrown all that other garbage. It reminds me of like the early My Dying Bride stuff, where as songwriters, they were kind of floundering around and they were throwing in a lot of these miscellaneous riffs and stuff just because, like, oh, we got to put another riff here. We got to put another riff here, it's like, because the song's not long enough yet. It's got to be this long. It's got to be 14 minutes. It's got to be 17 minutes. It's like, no, man, you could have that song could have been 7 minutes long and been so much better. Yeah, absolutely. Could have said so much more with so much waste. It's just useless, just useless riffing for nothing. There's no even real mood or anything to it. It's just, they're just using those power chords just to kind of drag the song through, to bulk it up so it's super long. And it's like, as songwriters, as the musicians who created, I'm sure in their mind, they have all these grand intentions about how this music looks, what it's supposed to be to them. then it translated to my ears, and it's like, guys, it's like, why waste all that time saying nothing when you've obviously demonstrated all these cool pieces. I mean, I think what did I say? The songs are too long, and I think it just fails them overall. Too much expendable riffs, stuff that goes nowhere and lends nothing to the song. It doesn't add anything. And it's all over here. There's so many places where it'll start strong, and then it just kind of meanders off into whatever. And again, it all sounds powerful. It's heavy, but it just loses you because you're falling asleep waiting for the rest of the song to get there. And then all of a sudden, oh, this part's kind of nice. This part's kind of cool. Why didn't you just bring that in, before that, or build the song? It's like, what is the one with the cool? It had the acoustic, had the ethics on the precipice, or precipice. It's spelled. It doesn't say it's precipice. That's not how it's spelled. It's whatever.
Precipice. Precipice.
It's PRECIP. That's not precipice. It's
Well, that's how you spell precipice, isn't it? Not
No!
PISS. I don't know.
Doesn't matter. I nailed it. Anyway,
This isn't a spelling test. Thank God.
I guess I'm gonna have to just come with facts and the Theopsosaurus and everything next time, and just correct everybody. So either that, or we just keep Alan on speed dial, and he can just fix all this.
You'll phone a friend, Alan.
But yeah, it's the opening of the song is just it wants to be cool, but it's just so kind of average, and then it gets into the acoustic part, and it's really cool, and it has a lot of shape and feel to it. And they should have built the whole song kind of around that idea. It's such a great idea, and they could have really made so much more out of it. And I just, I feel like they're injecting their cool ideas and then padding them out with all this other stuff. So it's like, look at our huge compositions, bro. Look at these 18-minute long songs. It's like, why is that song 17 and a half minutes long? For what? I mean, you spent half of it really doing nothing, saying nothing. So it's like, there's so much about this that wants to be better than it is. And it sounds cool, and it's heavy, and he's got his death vocals are cool. The clean vocals are really decent. But I just feel like it falls off the rails on a lot of spots.
All right, Kellen.
Yeah, I feel like the recipe here isn't that complicated. For me, I just kind of, I don't know if it was because I was looking for a record that had this kind of mood, like where I just sort of would sink into it. So I didn't necessarily go into listening to it looking to be like whatever, to find some appeal or hoping that it sort of met my standard, as much as I was kind of embracing the whole listen. So I don't know, maybe I liked it a little bit more because I was looking for this kind of a vibe, but the songs, I don't necessarily agree in terms of the songwriting, how you would approach it. The second track here is another one that gets has this very sort of open, spacious, the precipice. I mean, on both sides of that, I kind of look at like a side B, side A. It's really broken up by this like clean guitar that comes in and plays a very minimalist line. And I can understand where TJ was coming from in terms of like trying to curb parts of that equation or those two variables. But I actually enjoyed like when they would get to a point where they landed at a payoff. Like it made sense to me in terms of the riff I was looking for was there. Like they knew how to sort of close the loop. And maybe I don't tend to take issue with wanting to cut parts of it off or making it shorter, pulling it from 14 minutes to 10 minutes or something like that. But I do think that at least the riffs that they're writing, as basic as they are, they get that right. So I enjoyed that. The clean vocals, I think that can often fail in this sort of like pairing between a super intense, powerful death metal vocal and a clean sung vocal. And they got it right here. I don't ever felt like it was overstepping or felt cheesy or didn't match a Death Doom record in terms of its tone. So that part they did really well. And when they were doing something a bit more melodic and melancholy, I also thought it fit and worked well within sort of that the part of the world that they're operating in terms of being a bit more of a traditional Death Doom sound. So while I didn't take as much issue with the length of this listen, and personally I don't count like transmission when I'm listening to this on vinyl. I don't list transmission is not part of the equation.
Not part of the equation. Yeah.
It stops at an hour for me. So I do like records that push that, but it's definitely sitting. Like I will list, there are black metal records that I own that are 80 minutes long.
It's too much. It's too much.
I don't have issue. I don't take issue with long songs. There are plenty of stuff that I listen to that I enjoy a lot.
It's long albums. I'm saying here.
Like, oh well, yeah, but even the long tracks, it's like, you know, I know we're being a little bit critical of that, but only in so much as that with on here, it's like I'm not feeling like the 17 minutes said
dead space.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. So normally, if it was something that was really speaking to me, I wouldn't even really pay much attention to it. But it's like, oh man, it was really long, and there's plenty of stuff that I mean that goes into those realms that's just really killer that way. But but this just kind of, and then to Jim's point, it's like I don't, an hour long record. It just depends on the record, man. Sorry, didn't mean to step on you with that, but I just kind of wanted to inject
it's all good.
that
It's
point.
all good.
For me, did everybody go except for me? The musicality, and I too don't have a problem with long songs. If I'm sucked into the journey of what's going on, I mean, I'm going to reiterate everything everybody said already here, but that payoff, the climax, the crescendo, there's got in the song that does do it is the first one, Theories of Old Bones. The payoff at the end, it's like really simple melody lines laced together, but there's layering. The song finally it's just like TJ said, man, there's 6 minutes of that song they could have cut off. They could have touched on those initial ideas. My problem is, I'm a so-so musician, and I would be some of the riffs they write, I just couldn't consider them for myself. They would be not enough. They would have to go somewhere. There'd have to be something over the top of them, something to bring, the foundation is fine if you're building on top of it. This band they don't build on top of these foundations very often. And it's like track, Nothing Has a Center, the 5th track. You guys were saying how much you like that one. Man, that's 1534. That song is 3 riffs. There's 5 minutes of one riff, 5 minutes of another riff, 5 minutes of another riff. No, all 3 of the riffs are okay, but the mileage they get way too much mileage out of not much, like a 3-chord riff, and there's not much layering over the top. And the fact that he's not stepping outside of the riff lines vocally, he's just following the riff. It's like, God damn, throw me a bone, man. I mean, there's no repeat of a good idea. There's no structure. It's like a linear path. That song is a linear path. If it goes somewhere and the riffs all flow together, that's fine. But it's just, here's one riff, here's another riff, here's another riff. It's not saying, the song isn't speaking to me much. I mean, I found myself listening to it and being attracted to it just because I'm curious what they're going to do with it. Not because I'm like so pulled in. I'm trying in my musical brain. I'm trying to deconstruct it. I'm like, okay, what would I do in this situation? And what they're doing is just a lot of wasted space here. A lot of wasted space. And I'm fine with minimalism if there's some sort of layering going on, but what they give us here just isn't enough to keep me entertained for repeated listens. Production, Jim. Oh, and John, the drone thing. I don't get the impression that this is drone either. It just seems like undercooked stuff, man. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead. I feel bad because this album doesn't suck. It's just like
you just
ways,
wanted it to be better.
I just wanted to. There's like a good foundation for a lot better shit.
You
to
just
happen.
just keep waiting for stuff to become more than what they deliver in a lot of
Mhm.
places, that's yeah. So sorry, that's
Production. Sorry, Jim.
Oh no, it's cool. Actually, I think production for me is one of the highlights of the album.
Oh, yeah.
I thought there was a lot of balance between the instruments here. There was nothing about the production that bugged me. I like the drum sound. I think it's very fitting for what these guys, what they were trying to create. Atmosphere wise, it moves the songs along as it should. The riff sound, the guitar sound is really good, really heavy, which is for me absolutely essential in any kind of doom. There's nothing worse than a doom band with twangy Telecaster sounding guitars. I'm sorry, this particular genre of metal has to have heavy sounding guitars, or just get out of the way. Luckily, that is not the case with this band. The guitar sound is great. I think that the vocals were really good. I like the clean vocals. I thought they sat on top of everything as they should, but yet they weren't overbearing. They didn't take up too much of the mix where you were straining to hear things. So yeah, I think that they didn't stumble here. Something that I do wish that they had maybe pushed down in the mix, or maybe not done at all, was on Theories of All Bones. Man, I really don't like the heavy breathing vocal thing going on at the beginning. It was just, I felt like someone was like behind me, like trying to whisper, and they had like really hot bad breath, and I was like, please shut up, please stop doing that.
So it was like the Patrick Swayze to your Demi Moore, someone behind you on the pottery wheel.
Exactly. I'm having a ghost moment, right? We're about to put it in the kiln, and got sweet nothing's going on.
Jim, you're so sweaty.
Exactly. You got your headphones on and you're hearing that. It's like your ears are vibrating.
They're an Irish band, so would that hot sweaty breath smell like whiskey and potatoes? I don't know.
Well, hey man, if I had some Jamesons out, I turned around.
Hell yeah.
Just a little minor gripe there. Luckily, it didn't stay long. Once that goes away, I actually like from that, the moment that stops to the end of that song, it's really great, and that's the only time. But yeah, just a little nitpick there. But yeah, back to the point. I do think the production of this album is really strong here. But and as we're talking through it, I do see what you're saying, Marty. A little bit more of layering. I do think the bands that I do like in this genre, when we're talking about Mournful Congregation, we're talking about just incredibly good guitar playing, lots of layered guitars with phrasing and harmonies, and we're talking about Evoken, we're talking about really perfect keyboards and perfect cello placement, so that that would have elevated things. And they and again, to TJ's point, the foundation was there, very strong. There just needed to be a little bit more on top of it, to kind of justify the length for me. So.
You mentioned Mournful Congregation, like albums like the June Frost. I mean, they kind of snap you out of the hypnotized aura with these like world rocking guitar solos. I mean,
oh yeah,
there's room for shit to happen in these songs. It doesn't have to be just 3-chord progression plotted on for 7 minutes. It's like there's room for shit to happen. Anyway, Kellen.
Yeah, another highlight for me. I don't think there was anything necessarily really bad here in terms of the production. Where it needed to be like cleaner and stand out in terms of lead guitar work, it was there. The sounds it's massive where it needs to be. I agree that the drum sound is natural, good, vocals clear, separated up front. So I really didn't have too many complaints here. I know there were some comments about wanting a greater degree of atmosphere or ambience to the record. I guess you can understand where that's coming from. Like, when I listen to Call Wretched Sea, like, it takes me to that world. And I don't have, that kind of vibe on this record. It doesn't give me that place to inhabit when I listen to it. So I can understand that being a shortcoming, but just in terms of how the instruments are articulated, like, I thought they were successful.
TJ.
Production. I absolutely have it's one of my favorite parts of the record. I think the production on this is just absolutely right on the money for this. For any band kind of doing this style of music, really. Everything, the guitars crush, the vocals are sick. The drums are there. Everything kind of has its place. There's a lot of life in the mix. I don't really have anything to really grumble about when it comes to this. I don't think there's anything wrong with the production on this whatsoever. I think it does help this shine a little bit. It helps carry it along. Because it does. The record is powerful. It really is. But it's just, as we've been grumbling about for an hour and 11 minutes, there's some soft spots in it, but I definitely like the production.
Right. Sorry with it there. Yeah, for me, I like the production. The production's good. It's heavy. It sounds the way it should sound. All the elements are in the right place. Nothing's too loud. Nothing's too quiet. Yeah, it's a good sounding record. Zero complaints. Least favorite songs, Jim.
Absolutely, hands down, track 5, Nothing Has a Center. That song, if it was an album of songs like that, I'd have a higher opinion of the album as a whole. Like, I like the build up on that one. I like the death metal, the alternative pick trips, and the bass drums, double bass that kicks in at 5 minutes in. I love like the open chord, atmospheric post metal style riffing. Towards the end of the song, which you certainly don't hear in this genre very much. I thought it was a good mix. I thought it worked, and it was like, man, I wonder. It actually had me wondering about checking out their last album, the one that was after this one, to see if they'd lean more into that. And actually, the only one song I did check out did seem like it did. And so, I think if you haven't heard these guys, with the harmony, there's harmonized vocals on it. I feel like everything they were, I think the potential was realized in that one song, and I think if you really want to like hear them at their best, check out track 5, Nothing Has a Center. Also, again, huge AIC fan, so Old Rope really sticks out to me. Track 3. So those to me are the best songs on the record. Transitions, anybody who's been with us for a while on this show knows, like, we really don't like it when albums kind of close with a whimper,
with a yawn.
Yeah, whimper or a yawn or both. Yeah. And unfortunately, man, Transmissions is just it's horrible. I think lyrically there's a lot, and vocally I think there's a lot going on. I think there's a lot of emotion there, but we mentioned before, it just never goes anywhere. You keep thinking like it's gonna, something really cool has happened, and there's so much buildup, and then it just stops. So I'm like, I waited 15 minutes for nothing, just this like really sad acoustic thing going on that doesn't really have a lot of life. There's a lot of mumbling in the beginning, like a little talking, and I personally, again, if you watch the show, I can't stand it when bands just have somebody talking through a song. Like, man, if I wanted to hear a story, I'd be listening to Audible right now. You know what I mean? I don't want a podcast. in my song. You know, I don't want this show in my song. You know, I want to hear singing or screaming or yelling or something, but I don't want to hear talking. So transmissions like literally hit all the wrong cylinders for me, and so even though there's great moments on this record, I really believe that track alone would probably be why I wouldn't buy it. You know what I mean? It was a huge annoyance to me. But having said that, Nothing Has a Center, track 5 is so good that I want to check out their subsequent record to see if they leaned into that, because I feel like there's a lot of potential there. So
All right, Kellen, favorite, least favorite.
So yeah, I mean, I will agree. Transmissions is the one that I don't think we really need here. So that's probably my least favorite. It just doesn't go with the actual flow of the record to me, and I don't listen to it that way. It was actually a surprise when I was streaming it today that it came on, and I realized that there's this whole other part of the record that is just buried in my vinyl case that I haven't pulled out. So anyway, the favorite tracks for me are Ethics on the Precipice, Old Rope, and Nothing Has a Center. I mean, personally,
It's Precipice.
No, it's Precip. Read
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Alan even said.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Here we go. So, if you had just put those as like an EP, I think the more recent Mournful Congregation EPs were just 3 tracks and kind of composed the same amount of time. It'd be like less than 40 minutes or so. So that may have worked in terms of just being able to listen to them. But if I'm going to choose favorite tracks, it's going to be first a lot of the same mentions like that Jim brought along in terms of the bass drum on the last track. I loved that kind of shift in pacing on this record. So those 3 are my favorite. I would even like Old Rope to me almost sounds like a sludge song. The way that riff descends, it's a little bit different than the kind of melancholy Death Doom stuff. So that's also an interesting change of pace for me.
Okay, TJ.
So first, let's clear this up. The Google machine clearly states definition of precip, a written request addressed to a court for a writ to be produced, specifying what the contents of the writ should be. Look at the track titles. You'll see clearly.
It looks like precipice. Precipice. It's precipice.
No, it is not. It is precite. It's precip. Read it.
But they put precip and then there's ICE at the end of it. Where's that? Where do you see
ICE? Where do you see ICE?
Here, I'm going to copy it off the title and I'm going to post it in the. I'll post it in the chat. This is the name of the song.
PRE.
Here it is.
PE.
No. This is
Precip. That is not how it's spelled. That is not. I'm looking at it right here.
Are you looking at Spotify? That sucks.
Spotify, whoever entered it wrong, dude.
Yeah, that's not how it is on the record, dude.
Does it say precipice on the record?
Yeah, it says you're right. It says on Spotify precip or precip, but it's precipice on Metal Archive.
So then this isn't my fault then.
What is it on the record? I can't see it.
It's precipice.
Precipice.
It's precipice on the record.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I was right.
Spotify
is wrong.
Spotify is wrong. Whoever entered it into Spotify did not. They were in a rush.
So, all right. So now that we've cleared all that up, and I'm glad we did.
This is the kind of content you show up for on a Wednesday night.
Uncouple your panties.
Everyone in the chat, you're welcome. You're welcome.
This is why I'm here. I'm here for you, the people. So yeah, track 5, Nothing Has a Center. I think that's probably my I think it's the strongest track on here. It's my favorite. I like in the song Transmission. I like the way I'm not as adverse to spoken stuff and music as Jim is. if it goes somewhere, if it does something. And yes, that's
We're here to sound out the big words. Since there's no pictures, we have to use our brains.
Yeah. Everybody bring your picture pages and your speak and spell next week, because there will be a test.
Where's Bill Cosby when I need him?
In prison where he belongs. But anyway, yeah, so I was cool because I liked the I thought it was cool because he's kind of reciting some Orwell stuff from 1984 and whatever, and I like that book and what have you, and Orwell in general. But then it just kind of doesn't go anywhere, so really that's my least favorite track on the whole record. Other than that, the rest of them are just kind of hit and miss. But track 5 and yeah, for sure, definitely Nothing Has a Center. I dig that one a lot.
Okay, for me, I'm going to start with my least favorites. Old Rope. It's the shortest song on the album, 4 minutes, 50 seconds. Man, it just, the riff in that song goes nowhere. It's such a simple riff. In fact, I dislike the riff, and they play it a lot. And that song never developed, doesn't go anywhere, even though it's the shortest one on here. It's, there's like a massive chunk of music behind it, another 2 more massive chunks of music before it. It's just not good. Theories of Old Bones. I really like where this song goes. The melody lines at the end, it finally gives you that floating atmosphere. Like I finally arrived at a place. Because it's a long journey to get there. And I think it's a good song to be the lead off track, because it does show, the repetition's a bit excessive in the front half of the song, but when they get to a place, it's good. They're really good at it. It's like, wow, this album's going to be really special. It's going to really, but then Ethics on the Precipice, I got to say, that's my favorite song on the album. It's a long song. The thing that they filled in the holes, the riff choice that they play the riff a lot. It's a dissonant riff. It fills in the holes a bit. So it's kind of an interesting, atypical dissonant riff. They get a lot of mileage out of it, but for some reason it works. I like the way the song is put together. Dead Channel, it's okay. It's okay. Nothing Has a Center. Like I said, it's 3 chunks of music. Riff A, riff B, riff C, in that order. No repeat, no recall, no chorus, no pre-chorus. I mean, it's not, they've kind of defied traditional rock structure here, which is fine. Linear is good, but the riffs just don't sell the song for me. I dislike that song. Transmissions, we've all discussed that this is probably not meant to be. That's why it's on its own separate disc. It's meant to be something separate. But when we're streaming this from digital, it's kind of hard to make that distinction. But dislike it. Like I said, Jim said, we like a song that leaves a statement at the end, whether it's an ass ripping track or if it's, something with a lot of emotion that leaves some sort of emotional weight. This song is just a wandering variations on a main riff acoustically. It goes nowhere. It doesn't develop for me. And they go on and on for what? 14 minutes on that one. I mean, trim the fat. Yeah. So where are we at here? Judgment, final thoughts. Jim.
Yeah, this is an album that leaves me with a lot of mixed emotions, because when it's good, and sorry, Marty, you're wrong. Track 5 is awesome.
Listen to the structure. I couldn't believe how simple. I mean, it's like, here's a part, here's a part, here's a part.
Right. It's simple, but I think that one works. But you're right on Ethics on the Precipice. It's really good. See, that's the one I said reminds me, that riff sounds like a Neurosis riff to me.
Yeah. I didn't think that's a good, I didn't think of that. It's a good
kind of thing going on there, which is great. And I think the vocal delivery, kind of screaming type, is great on that one too. Anyway. But this album, very mixed emotions, because when it's good, I'm like, it's great. And but there's a lot of like kind of I don't want to say wasted, that sounds too but kind of sort of wasted space between those good moments that put me on the fence of the album. So, I think, ultimately, there's not enough there for me to buy this, but there isn't enough there for me to slam it either. I think that there's a lot, and that's what we keep coming back to, that word potential. And that's what I think is, this album had a lot of potential, but it just doesn't quite make it. But it also has enough cool moments where I won't slam it either. So to me, it's just a 7. It doesn't move, it's okay. It's average, but it doesn't have enough to sway me. It doesn't have enough to maybe turn the corner and say, hey man, I really want to hear this again. It certainly didn't offend me. I just wish that, they had edited some more and leaned into some more of that experimentation, because that's when these guys are at their best, when they lean into those sort of like genre defying, not defining, but genre defying moments. That's when I think they really come into their own. And I wish I would have saw more than that. So.
Right on. TJ.
Yeah, the album gets 3 out of 8 Drake's fudge dip devil dog cakes. I picked the fudge dip ones because, rather than the plain ones, because the album does have potential. It could have been better, like the fudge dip ones versus the not fudge dip ones. So that's why I did that.
Well said. Kellen.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for sitting down and putting in the time to listen to this record this week. And if I'm ever at Fat Camp, I will return the favor and have sugar on corn. So I'll take one for
while we listen to Portal.
There we go. But I'm not done with this band, I guess, is the kind of way I maybe will listen to it with a bit more critical ear. But I'm still curious about this band. So while I'll probably do some more like research and spend some time just kind of streaming their stuff, I do think that at least like at their bare essentials, they've got something going for them. I enjoy listening to this record, but I don't know where it'll rank in terms of like my favorites so far. But if this is not your jam, like I totally get it. And going to this week, I knew like it's also this genre tends to be one that really requires a certain amount of commitment getting into it to begin with. They aren't easy listens in a way that usually it's a big ask.
Very true.
So I appreciate all of you for, you sit down and, oh my God, we've got 15-minute songs. I hate this kid. But you tucked it out, and thank you so much for sticking through this week.
No, I really wanted to dig this record a lot, and I don't hate it. It just, there's just so many other bands in this style that I would be, go listen to Ahab or Swallow the Sun or, something like that. This record just, I don't know, man. I think there could be so much more here. I just wish there was, and but I was glad to do it.
Dude, I gotta say, Kellen, these are the type of albums they breed good discussion. We've all been on these where we all love something. It's kind of gross. I mean, it happens. It's gonna happen. And the records like this, I love the fact that, did I love listening to it a bunch? No, but I knew the end result is what's good. But for me, before we cut it here, judging the record, to me, it feels like an unfinished record. I like the foundation. The foundation has potential. It seems like they left 2 tracks off of the entire record, like, whether it's keyboards or solos or whatever, atmospherics, there seems like half the record is missing to me. And that's just a little bit of frustration musically, because again, I'm not a musical genius, but I know if I'm, typically me and TJ, we write songs together, and I typically try to complicate everything because my brain wants to fill in the holes. He'll tell you he's the cleanup guy. Typically he's got a better idea on simplifying things, but when things get into this realm of super simplistic, I struggle. If there isn't, other lines of interest flowing through this music, whether it's atmospherics, whether it's, violins, whatever, it feels unfinished. And I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. I really, if I saw this in a bin, I wouldn't buy it. I might have a promo for one of the Sullen Sulcus. And apparently that didn't leave much of an impression either, because I haven't listened to it since it came in to my mailbox in 2002. So, and granted, to Kellen did, state early on, this type of music of metal doom, I like it. When it's done well, I love it, but it's not what I'm grabbing for. It's not what I'm, fall time is typically when I'm going to be listening to this much, I typically like the world rock and shit a little bit more in my diet. But anyway, other than that, yep, I think it was a great pick, Kellen. It's always a good discussion, of course. And next week it is TJ's turn to pick. Look at him smiling like
here it comes.
Here it comes.
Everybody get ready.
Well, so I had initially picked a French band. I changed my mind. I've got this release from a Spanish band. Came out in 2012. They're called Obsidian Kingdom, and it is their release Mantis. Now, this is essentially one song.
Great.
47 minutes long.
Are you kidding?
Wow. Read the room, Tej. Read the room.
No. But it's broken into 14 parts.
What is the name of the album?
Mantis with 2 eyes. Yeah, and the 14 tracks, if you will, go through a lot of different moods. So it but it's all basically, it all kind of moves from one to the next without any real interruption. It's all kind of one song. So we will enjoy this over the week. And
what style is it? What style is it?
Yep.
Experimental, extreme, progressive metal.
Great.
What the archive
this is something that I tripped over on back in the Soul Seek days. Stumbled on this looking for something else and downloaded it, and just I fell in love with it. I think it's great. Their subsequent releases, I don't know so much. I have a couple of them after this. I'm not too crazy about any of it, but this was, this is cool. I think this is really cool. There's a lot going on here.
What is on that cover? Is it a dude with a corn on a cob for a nose? Like, what is that?
It's like a picture of somebody's sister with like a mantis claw coming out of it or something. It's very bizarre art. The whole record is some sort of angular concept that I, of course, can't understand because they're Spaniards and who knows what they're thinking about. There's no I don't know what's going on in here. But
the ironic thing is experimental extreme progressive metal is what my tramp stamp says. So wow.
You spelled classy wrong.
Mind blown. And the full title for this is Mantis in Agony in 14 Bites.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I told you all that you would pay, and you will pay. This is going to be easier than the other band I was going to pick. This is
great.
This is going to be better. The other band I was going to pick.
We were just talking about Chainsword before the chat. Some bull thrower worship. I mean, and
whatever.
We go from that to this.
We do that every day, man. We do bull thrower every day. My tramp stamp says classy. Well, it's spelled. It's spelled wrong, but But so yeah,
you couldn't afford the CL, so it just says assy.
No.
All right, everybody, thank you. Precipice. Yep. All right, everybody, you all rule. My brothers in Wednesday, all rule. All the people in the chat, you all rule. Thank you for joining us and putting in the homework. It's a lot of fun on these things when everybody has listened to the album and can comment on it as well. We all appreciate you. And show notes. Friday, we will be here with Jimmy from Future Ruins. He is returning to the show. TJ actually inspired the topic. It'll be called Attack of the Clones. We will be talking about bands that sound like other bands, whether in tribute or accidentally, whatever. And he was too chicken to join us on Friday, so you only get to enjoy TJ on Wednesday. So
I'm sex for Wednesday. I'm the candy man that comes to you on Wednesday nights to bring the love and excitement and the facts and to ruin you and to bring the hate with these wonderful records that I pick. And I got no time for Friday. Sitting over there with them big brains talking about all their baseball stats and bubblegum cards and all that crap. I had a brilliant idea, and that's what I do. I have ideas. I think them. I don't do them, and that's what I'm here for. So you're welcome.
We're gonna have a little. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I knew I had you at the Star Wars reference anyway.
No, it was great. Perfect. It'll be a fun topic, and there will be also. It was mentioned last night on last night's impromptu stream. There's going to be a giveaway too for a Panopticon first press Panopticon record too. So tune in on Friday on how to get in on that action. And anybody have anything? Oh, go check out Kellen's show that he just posted earlier this evening. Enforcer? No, was that the name of the band? Enchanter. Jackson, Michigan. They sound a little bit like early Fates Warning. It's pretty cool shit, actually. Go check that out. And check out Eihwaz Recordings. Check out The Glorious Dead. Myself and TJ are in that band. We have a new album out called Cemetery Paths that people don't seem to be giving a shit about.
Nobody cares.
Go give it a spin. Go give it a spin on Spotify and check it out and come see us for the merch. Other than that, we'll see you Friday. Have a great night, everybody. Cheers.